Welcome to the Hangout Podcast. I'm your host, David Sharetta. Come on in and hang out. In this episode, I was privileged to have a conversation with Royal Ramey. Royal is the co-founder and CEO of FFRP, which stands for the Forestry and Fire Recruitment Program. Royal grew up in the San Fernando Valley in California, and as he describes it, had a challenging upbringing, both in the home as well as on the streets. Then that led to some poor decision-making and ultimately his incarceration. As Royal describes, he discovered this concept of fire camp while incarcerated, and subsequently, after deciding to commit to this training process, which he describes in depth in this episode, he spent 11 months pursuing a professional degree in fire. Royal finally received an opportunity to join the Mojave Greens of the U.S. Forest Service, which is a crew operating out of San Bernardino, California. Royal has spent more than 10 years as a wildland firefighter in the U.S. Forest Service, CAL FIRE, and now with the Buffalo Hand Crew, which is FFRP's own private fire department. In 2022, Royal received a pardon from Governor Newsom on behalf of the state of California. In 2023, he was awarded the Obama Leaders USA Program Participant Award, and in 2024 became a TED Fellow. Royal gives credit to God for the success that he has experienced in this whole notion of being able to turn around a life and then pass that on to others. I hope that you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. Welcome, Mr. Ramey. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast this afternoon.
All right. Thank you for having me. Pleasure.
I thought we could get started with the most logical starting point, which is your origin story, where you come from, what your past was like, and what brings you to the present moment. And then we'll talk more about the work you do today.
Hey, cool. So, Royal Ramey, I actually grew up in the San Fernando Valley. Or actually, let me back a little bit. So I was born in Houston, Texas. My mom came out to California when I was 1 year old. Lived in South Central Compton area, and then we moved to the San Fernando Valley when I was 8 years old. There, I lived in a predominantly Hispanic neighborhood from 8 to 16 years old, and my mom, when we moved, we had my stepdad. She met him at the LAX where she was working, and I have an older sister. I got a younger sister, and growing in the valley, it was kind of tough. Living in a gang-infested neighborhood, so I was one of the 3 Black kids on the block, so it was definitely a challenge, being in the streets. And my stepdad actually didn't take fond of me, so I kind of reverted to, my environment, and it kind of led me into, in the streets, hanging around with, the wrong crowd, and I got immersed into the street life a little bit, and, accumulated some bad habits, and, what that leads, either dead or in jail. And went to jail on multiple occasions, juvenile hall and prison, but end up, getting into some trouble when I was in the valley, and my mom decided to move to San Bernardino County, where I reside now, and just a little firecracker and doing, making poor choices, and which led me to, robbery and burglary. And that's how, started spending my young adult life in prison. And, I went to prison. I was sentenced to 6 years in prison. I did 4 years, 8 months. And at the time, I was kind of like flabbergasted on me, being in a situation I was in. I was always a smart kid, had good grades, but the streets pretty much took over. But while I was in prison, I realized that, I wanted to do something better in my life. I knew prison wasn't a lifestyle for me that I really wanted to indulge with, and talk to a lot of folks that was in there that was like, man, this is not for you. Like, you smarter than these other cats, and started to do some self healing and self reflection. And I remember vividly in the cell one day, one of a gentleman there, he slided a Sports Illustrated magazine, and up in my cell, I was like, "Hey, read this." And on the cover, it was John Wall. He was freshman, Kentucky, on his way to the NBA. And I asked the question. I was like, how, like, we kind of around the same age. We both black men, right? Like how did he get to a place of college and a similar upbringing as me? He in college and I'm in prison, and I realized that it was a lot of choices that he made, regardless of the circumstances he was in, and what can I do to be better and try to change the narrative for my family. I remember being in middle school, and my mom, we received a big package, and my uncle was in prison at the time. I remember, and got the big package, and we got noticed that he actually died in prison, Ironwood State Prison, and that kind of like started to like get me to thinking of like, man, I wouldn't want to die in prison, and as I figured, just realized the things that I was going through as a young man, and it's a lot of things. I had a lot of anger issues. I was, um, upset about my circumstances, obviously, and like opportunity. And I learned fast in prison, patience, but also um, the power of choice is real, and just taking responsibility and accountability for myself, and start doing that self healing. And from there, I end up, you know, have an opportunity to go to fire camp, and went to my annual review, because you usually do that every year when you're in prison to evaluate your behavior and status. And they said that I'm eligible to go to fire camp. Do you want to go? And I was like, what is fire camp? So I'm like, can I get some time to think about it or talk to some folks? And it's like, yeah, no problem. Um, at that time, California, or the California Department of Corrections Rehabilitation was sending folks out of state because it was overcrowded in California. So I actually ended up going to Arizona and Mississippi. Um, so in the time I was in Mississippi in 2012, I actually, it was kind of like, it was foreign to me. So when I called my mom, I'm like, I got an opportunity to go to fire camp. She was like, boy, you better hurry up and get back out here and go and do that. And then I talked to a couple of folks that was in the cell block that I was in. And it was like, yeah, fire camp was great, good food. It's a dormitory, living situation. You have you got the ability to visit, your family can visit you in a park like setting, right? There's all these different, great things about it. So I was like, you know what? Sure, why not? So did went back to California, did the training that they provided when it comes to being a wildland firefighter, and I end up going to fire camp. Well, little did I know that I had to change my or trade in my Nikes for these boots,
Right.
and there's this get this pack, and it's a McLeod, and it was like, what is this? I never even thought that like folks really did this, actually on the front lines fighting fires and stuff. So it was mentally and emotionally and physically challenging, but from there I actually end up embracing it and loving it. In the last, I believe, for like 20 plus months of my sentence, I dedicated my focus in life to wildland firefighter, and fell in love with it. I wanted to pursue it as a career, but it wasn't a really true pathway um, to be able to transition over to professionally once you have been incarcerated at the time that I was in prison. So I met up with my co-founder Brandon Smith, and we was like, man, we love this, man. We want to pursue it as a career, and it was like, but it's like it's the whispers around. If you have a felony, if you're a felon, you can't become a firefighter. So for some reason, I felt like it wasn't true. I felt like it was something there, and I was like, man, I love this. I want it as bad as I want to breathe. So I was going to figure out a way to be able to make that happen. And um, came home. We had found a pathway of how to transition from incarceration to being a wildland firefighter with the U.S. Forest Service. And then in 2018, I ended up getting an opportunity to work for Cal Fire. And that's when I knew, it's something that we need to put on paper. So ended up following our 501c3 status. And pretty much from there, we helped over 300 people get jobs in the fire service. About 60 people now work for Cal Fire out of those numbers. And it's just been a journey for sure. And now, uh, I'm the CEO and the co-founder of the organization. Um, it's just, it's been crazy since the LA fires, and we was, kind of, not a small nonprofit, just making change in a little corner. And then I had LA fires hit, and I get a lot of publicity and around what we've been doing.
Well, I appreciate that. You're very humble about the work you do, and I know you've received national, international recognition. We'll get to that in a minute, but I want to go back to this question I had around like how uh, felons, convicted felons, can be used to fight fires, but can't become firefighters officially when they get out of prison. How has the law changed, or did you guys find a workaround? Or talk to us about that.
Yeah, so it's just been misconception around that. California has been utilizing incarcerated people since the 1940s,
Right.
and a lot of folks have transitioned, but it's never been like a true pathway. And when I say that, it's like more of a, you can actually do it, and these are the steps. This is the application process. This is the certifications you need, and in order for you to be able to transition successfully. And um, for me personally, it just when I got to or when I started to do this wildland firefighting thing and being a firefighter with Cal Fire professionally is just really the stigma. And I think for me, working for the Forest Service, it was more so um, how to navigate the application process, right? Like, what do you put on your because when I was the time that I um, worked for the Forest Service, you had to explain, like, have you had in the last 7 years, have you ever, have a felony? And it's the way you explain the situation was very critical. Because before then, I know like a lot of folks would say certain things and they did just get, disqualified. So it was just really around like verbiage and making sure that you understand how to, place it. But like it's been a thing. A lot of folks been have an opportunity to do it. It's just knowing, how to navigate the application process and what certifications you need and all that good stuff.
So that's actually then the work that your nonprofit is supporting young men with, then, correct?
Yeah, young men and women
Women, men
too.
and women. Interesting.
Yes, yes.
So I'll get back to the nonprofit work in a minute, but I'm intrigued.
Hmm.
I'm intrigued by the concept of fire camp. So, like,
Hmm.
I've never been in prison, and so all I know is by speaking with people who have been and by reading about it. But I'm
Hmm.
sure there are parts of prison that are physically demanding, et cetera. But then there's also a part where there's a lot of decision making that's made for you, right? Like your life is pretty restricted. When you get to fire camp, I'd imagine, as you mentioned, it's physically, emotionally, psychologically, maybe even spiritually challenging on a whole different level. Um, was there a fitness component? Had you even been, were you an outdoor kind of dude, or was it like, oh, was that all new to you?
Yeah, it was definitely new. I grew up in it, urban and inner city, so our community. So it's like it was definitely different. Never seen, you know, wild animals, right? Never been into the forest in no way, shape, or form or fashion. So it was definitely new to me. The physical component is really challenging for, I believe, for anybody. When you imagine, you having this equipment on, you having, your PPE on, like you going out there in the front lines and creating field breaks on steep terrain, and it's hot, it's crazy, right? Like I remember on multiple occasions, or actually, let me tell you this funny story. So I remember on my first hike, um, I got the pack, got the boots, got the PPE and stuff, and it's all right. We're gonna hike this mountain, and like I'm like, what, like, and it's different from you flat ground or you running, right, with all this equipment on and having this tool in your hand, and it's like what, like it's crazy. And I remember we first, our whole crew, was hiking up and stuff, and you can see like the gap from me and the last person, or the me being the last person, the gap was the second person. It was like tremendous, right? And I remember finishing the hike, and my captain was just waiting on me and looking at me, and I'm physically exhausted, right? And I'm like, just feel like I was defeated. And he told me, he's like, man, Ramey, you like the youngest guy on the crew, and you the slowest. Like, what do what's going on, right? He's like, I'm 50 plus years old. Like, how do I'm beating you up the mountain and stuff. And I was like, man, like immediately I was like, man, this sucks, right? I was like, I don't know if I could do this. But another inside of me was like, I felt like he was even calling me soft, right? So I'm like, you know what, I ain't soft, right? So let me show him. And I think with a lot of the healing and the self-reflection of myself and what I've been working on, my mental and my emotional intelligence while I was in prison, gave me the ability to really take on that challenge. And I just start working out working out more, hiking more. Even on the weekends, I used to hike with my captain and just building that stamina, because it's nothing like nothing compare you for the mountain. Like you have to just do it. You got to hike. You can't the swimming and running, the pull ups, the weights, all that stuff is not going to help you. So, but from there, it was definitely a challenge at first, and you just condition your body, and you can acclimate to it. So
It, it must have been in a certain way liberating though, because I'd imagine that you got judged for your fitness and how effective you were at your work, right? Like, was that a liberating experience for you? Like you weren't necessarily identified with what your sentence was, but rather whether you were good or not at the firefighting.
absolutely. Um, it really showed me that I feel like if you could fight fire, you could do anything, right? Like, and it gave me the sense of purpose and pride. It really helped me grow in those three areas, mentally, emotionally, physically, and also spiritually too. Like you said, it really um, gave me the power of choice, and just like I think even me being more fearless about things. It's like I was in the streets doing dumb stuff, and I'm like, if I can be able to take some of that that adrenaline junkie, and the youth of myself, and if I can you know do all this negative stuff, like how can I take that energy and put it into something that's good, especially when you on fires and you come back and you see thank you firefighters, regardless if you have or are you wearing orange. It really shows that like I'm a firefighter. Like I felt like I was while I was in prison, and really gave me that liberating ideology and spirit, and for me to be able to continue to want to pursue it as a career.
Talk to us a bit about the actual everyday work of your nonprofit. Do you Are you recruiting in prison to help encourage young men and women to take this path, or are you waiting until they're in the fire camps and then you're helping transition them into the career post incarceration? Talk to us about the work you do.
Absolutely, all the above. So, um, we visit all 35 camps. Um, to be able to, recruit and give them that inspiration and give them something to look forward to once they come home, and obviously tell our stories. 'Cause I got staff, that have the lived experience like myself, and being able to help them, help them transition is to give them that spark. And we have an intake coordinator that contact them, let them know that it's an ability for them to come home, and once they actually come home, we can be able to put them through our career training program if they can be able to come to San Bernardino or Oakland. And then obviously we do the training piece, which consists of an 8-week program. We give them all the certifications they need to get an entry level position with Cal Fire, the Forest Service, or even a private contract crew, or any like a forestry type of careers. And that's the first 4 weeks really focus on the certification piece. And then the second latter part is more towards employment support, help them with their resume, help them with financial literacy, help them also get their expungement through AB 2147. And then we also do field mitigation work. So when you're not fighting fires, when you're in fire camp, you do a lot of field mitigation work, meaning brush clearing, weed abatement. Some programs have like tree programs in camps, so you can be able to learn how to cut down hazardous trees. I'm doing the defensible space work and stuff throughout the state, and plus we've been doing some prescribed burning with the Nature Conservancy as well. So we try to give them a gambit of knowledge, skills, and abilities, how to do it professionally once they come home. And the biggest thing is the life skills piece, because I think when you think about folks that's been incarcerated, they're considered a public nuisance.
Right.
So how do you get them to look at themselves as a public servant? So it's the way that you carry yourself. It's the way that you have to come up and show out. Like firefighting is a lifestyle. It's not a 9 to 5. So it's a 180 mindset that they will have to embrace to look themselves as somebody that serves their community 24/7, regardless of the time or the day. So and also the navigating the application process, but once you get the job as a firefighter, how do you transition successfully in a predominantly white Caucasian male field, or profession at that. So it's ways that because firefighting can be, as a rookie, can be challenging. So you have to learn how to adapt and overcome and embrace the suck and understand how to adapt, and then especially in the wilderness and rural areas and stuff. So it's definitely that gambit. And then also we provide a stipend, a paid stipend while they're in the program as well.
It really sounds like you've covered all the different angles. I was going to ask you that question. You got to it ahead of me. Was the cultural bridge between, the unfortunate tragic reality of our of incarceration is young people of color, and
Mm-hmm.
and not only young people, but young people, people of color rather. And then I'd imagine, without having done the research, that this backcountry culture of firefighting is pretty white, and so that's an interesting bridge, right, for people to cross. How has your? I'm sure you have success metrics. The cycle of recidivism is something that is super challenging to break, as you know more better than I do. Like, what's your success rate? And I'm sure that's something that keeps you up at night, right? Is like, what would be tough? It would be someone goes through your program and then ends up back in the system.
Yeah, so our success rate is about 90%,
Wow.
compared to think the nation's is like 44%, and then California is a little bit above that too. So um, I think we try to identify people that's really serious about it, and tightening up our vetting process. And I know, as obviously we train about 100 people a year, so um, you know, it's it's a gut feeling when it comes to trying to identify people that's serious, because you do have those folks that's not. But um, I think there's some folks that when they first come, or they might have, obviously they have a lot of challenges, right? With trauma in their life, and got to get over things. And one of the things that I like know to be true is that it is, you know, firefighting is a paramilitary culture. And when you are having dealt with people that don't have like authority, right? Like they're trying to bug up the system. It can be definitely a transition, but sometimes it takes one or two times, or even three times, for them to get it and really understand the magnitude. Especially the younger they are, the more challenging it can be. But as the like the average about a 30-year old person that comes through our program are more like set to be more successful because they've been through some things in life. um but yeah, it's definitely it's crazy, because you see so much potential in each and every person, but it's really for them to make the decision to really keep the standard, and knowing that this is a viable option for them, and this it could be a career changing opportunity for them, if they really take it serious.
Before we had started hitting record, you mentioned the LA fires, and so obviously this was a really tough year for firefighting in California. Talk to us about the role that your organization played and how you interacted with the fighting of those fires. My understanding is that it's a multi-agency effort. It sounds like
Mhm.
firefighters are coming from multiple states, sometimes from multiple countries when it's something that big. How did your organization fit into that quilt of overlapping agencies?
So during the time we just had started our cohort, so usually what we do is we give them the basic 32, because they have like a couple of other classes before they can even be considered our program. So when the LA fires hit, it was in actually the training that they need in order for them to actually go out and be a wildland firefighter with the Forest Service, or even with Cal Fire on the hand crew. So we was doing that, and then and a lot of the alumni that came through our program in previous years actually fought the LA fires, the Eden and the Palisades fire. And so that's one of the biggest role we play. But then once we finished our training, everything kind of started dying down. Like you mentioned, we had support from Mexico, I believe, and also Canada. So we didn't actually fight fires, but we ended up going and did a TNC project, which is a Nature Conservancy project out in the Tahoe National Forest, and doing some prescribed burning. But the biggest role we played, yeah, was we had pretty sure a lot of our alumni was working with the different multi agencies to be able to put out those fires.
And so really it sounds like you train for backcountry stuff, but also urban. Is that right too? Is that like you guys have to have skills that apply across the board?
Um, so the Forest Service is really focused on the backcountry and the wildland firefighting um sector, but then when you work for Cal Fire, depending on if you on the hand crew or you on the engine, you can be able to do a whole lot, right? So like Cal Fire is an all risk fire department. You got 21 units throughout the state, and they have state responsibility area that they cover. And you could, actually, be on the engine and respond to a medical aid in your unit, or you could do a structure fire or vehicle fire, supporting rope and rescue, on which I have done in my career when I worked for Cal Fire. But for the most part, we focus more so on the wildland portion. Really, the skills that they have learned while they was incarcerated on the crew, we really pretty much fine tune that. But then also we provide certifications like Hazmat Pro and Confined Space and Awareness, Public Safety First Aid, because those are some of the certifications you need in order for you to work for CAL FIRE. So it's more focused on wildland firefighting, but we have a lot of our alumni and folks um, that come by, talk to the folks about other opportunities in with CAL FIRE on the all risk side.
So your work has received widespread recognition, and if I'm not mistaken, you were recognized by the Obama Foundation and also as a TED Fellow. That must have been pretty surreal experience. Talk to our listeners about those experiences and how that kind of reaffirms the work you've been committed to for all these years.
Yeah, that gave me goosebumps while you said that. It's crazy. I remember talking to one of my employees, and it was like, "Hey, Chief, I think you should apply for this Obama Foundation leadership program. Um, yeah, I think you'll be a great fit." Looked at it, I was like, they might not like choosing me. Right? I'm just this guy. So I remember putting my application in, and they called me for an interviewed me, and it was like, man. And they selected me, and I was like, okay, I must be doing something right, right? And we had some recognition from Congresswoman Kamalager Dove in 2022, I think, which kind of like catapulted that with the James Irvine Foundation, because I got the leadership award with my co-founder, and that's first, and then the Obama, and then I had the opportunity to when I applied to the TED Fellowship in 2024, which really kind of put us on the map. Um, and and also the governor actually pardoned me in 2022 too. So I'm not a fan of like talking all about my accolades or whatever, but it is rewarding. Me starting out, or me and Brandon starting this organization. It was never about accolades. It was really about impact.
Right.
I just knew that when I was in camp, that I wish I had somebody to say, hey, like, I understand how you feel. I've been in your situation, your shoes, and this is a valuable option for you. So that's one of the reasons why I started it. But yeah, throughout these years, it's been surreal. It's been an honor. Um, Sometimes I get a little emotional just thinking about it because, you know, it does feel good to be recognized for good work. Because for the most of my life, it's always been the the public, the public nuisance, or the minister society guy, um, and it's good to know my worth, and know that I am contributing to society. And I just know that once it's all said and done for me, when hopefully I'm in a deathbed when I die or whatever, right, and I can look at my family's eyes, and know that not only just influence them that surround me, but also generations of folks that have been underrepresented and underserved, and giving them an opportunity to being able to provide for their families financially, but also be an asset to the community, not only throughout the state, but even the nation. Because when you work with the Forest Service, you go and fight fire all throughout the country. So it's a great feeling, honestly. I look forward to more opportunities like this, and wanted to just continue to share my story, because people will be surprised that by me being in fire camp, like, where a lot of people think that you're in prison, right? Like, you don't have too many options when you come home to be successful, but you actually do. So I just want to continue to spread that awareness about it.
Well, your story is inspirational and a true story of redemption. And so I thank you for sharing it. And it's interesting to me as I think about the stereotype that so many people carry around is they think, oh, well, uh, felons like are almost quote unquote, like let's stick them on the front lines of fighting fires because, you know, that's just a good place to put them. I mean, I've heard those comments a lot, but actually, as you talk through this, you when you went into fire camp, like they were forming you into. I mean, you might have been a tough guy behind bars, but You're out there in a different environment. The old dude calls you soft or kind of intimated that, right? And so
Right, right.
you got to get your stuff in order, and then you turn this into a career. I mean, what more inspiring thing can there be than that? I'm wondering if you could give me a message for your I don't know how old you are when you started to get how old you were rather when you started to run on into trouble on the streets, but let's just choose an age like let's say 16. Your current age, what message would you give your 16-year-old self right now? Like if you could go back and talk to him, what would you tell him?
Um, I think the first thing I'll say is you're great, right? You know, you're worthy of being able to be what you want to be. Like it was a time I remember like I wanted to be a lawyer. I thought about all type of businessmen, right? Like all the different things, and I just felt like it was too far fetched for me,
Right.
right? Like I remember I tell folks this all the time, like I remember, running around the streets and stuff, seeing red engines and trucks, and I never thought that could be me because I never seen nobody that looked like me on them. So that was never something I thought about. It wasn't an option for me. I felt like it was either you had to be um so success looked like either you had to be in the streets, right? Or you had to be an entertainer in some sort.
Right.
So if I could tell my younger self is like, you know, just because you don't see yourself, um, or you don't, think that you can probably do it, I think, you can, right? I think that's where the young folks they get discouraged and then they want things fast, right? Like immediate gratification on things. And it's like you gotta be patient, you gotta, wait and you gotta, research, you gotta, put in the time and the effort to be great. But you have the potential, you are great. Like it's in you, it's already in you. And the biggest message would be like understand the power of choice. Like regardless of the situation you in and where you at and the environment you in, like you have the opportunity to do what's right, and stay away from the knuckleheads and stuff. And I think that could have really been you know, monumental and like it'd have been more it would have been a real impact to hear those type of things and having a mentor, right? And somebody that can help guide and direct you and seeing a different type of lifestyle. But you know, you're great, man. You got it in you. You can do what you want to do. Just understand your true power, what you have within yourself and your mind.
Where can people go to learn more about your work and support you? I'm assuming that there's a ability to donate, nonprofit, donate online. People go to your website, follow you on social media. Where can we find you?
Yeah. So social media wise, the website is forestryfirerp.org. And then my Instagram is royal.ramey. And then our Instagram for FFRP is FFRP_CA.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, and if folks want to come and donate, like that'd be huge. Every dollar counts, right? You have a 501, have a nonprofit organization. It's a 501(c)(3), so you can get a tax write off at the end of the year for sure. Every dollar counts. It'd be $5, $10, 50, 100. It doesn't matter. Like, the more support we get through there, the more work that we can actually do. And yeah, I'm excited to continue to build with people that wants to see change and give people opportunity and to be successful in life.
I have one more question for you before I get there, is there anything that we have not covered today that you think listeners should know about your work? We've covered a lot of ground, but I just wanted to make sure I wasn't cutting you short.
Yeah, so we do have I've been really focusing on building up my Buffalo hand crew.
Okay.
So I did mention that we do have opportunities to go out on fires, and that obviously that takes a lot of money because it's like it's a private kind of private contract crew kind of deal, and it really gives our participants the opportunity to go out on fires professionally and from with my staff because we are, qualified to go out and do this work. And it's something that I'm trying to focus on more. And like when it comes to fire suppression, but the biggest focus for us is doing transitional work where I can hire some of the folks that come out of my career training program to do more of the field mitigation work. Because we know like one effort that we need to continue to think about is that we need to focus on, the preventative measures, right, when it comes to wildland firefighting. And FFRP is the intersection between workforce development, criminal justice reform, and also climate resiliency. So I think we in a unique space to be able to touch on multiple different areas while combating these fires, being able to provide folks opportunity in the workforce, um, and also, help change folks' lives that folks that come out of incarceration. Quick fun fact for you. It costs about $138,860 to house one person in California prison. And I tell people, if I can get about a quarter of that, if that, maybe even like $25,000 that we can invest in this person coming home from prison, or even it's in a marginalized community, they can be able to have a, they can make about, 60 to 100K a year with benefits retirement. And when you add up all those numbers, right? Like is millions of dollars that we have invested in when it comes to the social return on investment. And Cal Fire is hiring 2,400 firefighters in the next 5 years. We have a forestry workers shortage, about 9,400 labor shortage gap when it comes to forestry workers by 2028. So it's a lot of opportunities for jobs and placement. And lastly, I will want to say that we need to be more proactive in the preventative work for folks going, outside of folks going to prison. So I really want to start. I did a little pilot in San Bernardino um, with this high school program, but we really need to like show folks that they can actually do it while they're in, elementary, middle school, high schools. Like be more proactive in talking to them about different career options, right? Like I think that's something that I feel like a lot of folks from people of color that have the nice good occupations that's not like glamorized. You got small business owners, you got lawyers, doctors, electricians, all these different trades. Like show more people of color and that's successful in that in an occupation, and mentor people and show face more at these career days and stuff. I think
Right.
that's really important to show people there's different options out there, social influencers, folks in the media, entertainment, and in different aspects too. Like it's all these different jobs and good paying jobs that I think folks are not too much aware of. And we need to be more proactive in, being more of being in their community and showing up to those for the kids and just giving them the inspiration and power. Cause like, yeah, I'm doing it in fire camp and prison, but like as a nation, like how can we, or as a world, like in any country, like how can we, pay it forward and show folks that, these are different options for them instead of, like I said, when I was a young kid, all I thought it was two different ways to be successful. So
Yeah. As you speak, I think about, the changing climate, whether people call it global warming or climate changes, doesn't even matter because it's changing. And so
mhm.
we're seeing fires in parts of the country that historically we didn't see them. I'm from the East Coast, and there's fires in states where I never remember at all having fires when I was a kid. So as you say, the opportunities for these jobs that typically people don't talk about, especially in an urban setting, I think your point is a critical one. Like that mentorship and seeing for kids in an urban setting to see themselves reflected in someone who's working in the backcountry, but also all over the country would be super powerful. Um, so, again, I want to encourage listeners to learn more about um, Royal's nonprofit, the work that you're doing. It's transformative. You're humble about your recognition, but congratulations, and also on congratulations on the pardon as well. That's huge.
Mhm.
Um, uh, I want to just close with one hypothetical question for you. Imagine you got the chance to design a billboard for the side of the freeway. I'm not sure what freeway is closest to your house in San Bernardino. I don't know, the 15 or something. You got a chance to design a billboard for the side of the freeway that people saw as they drove by. What does your billboard say to the world about what you believe, what you find to be important in this life?
I'm a Christian, so obviously, Jesus Christ is some, that got to be on the billboard and what I believe. But also too, just there'll be a collage of things of I think people, need to know that you're not the sum, some people make mistakes and they shouldn't be a sum of one bad day or um that, or one mistake that folks made, right? I think we need to get into a place where, second chances is real. And I think humans need to understand grace and mercy for folks. And, you can turn it around, because that's something that I just believe in and I have lived it, you know, I've been on both sides kind of now. So I understand that, folks can change and move forward and, be the best person you can be, just continue to grow, continue to educate yourselves, continue to, have an open mind and be thoughtful about what you do. And, and lastly, like, think about how you, like I said, in your deathbed, like, what are your last, like, what would you want your legacy to be? How have you contributed to society? Because everybody have a limited time. Are you doing everything you need in order for you to make true impact and change? And if you're living a healthy and happy life, right? I think those are the things that I definitely collage in that billboard. And hopefully that can, and sometimes some inspiration thing or something, I don't know, but nobody has ever asked me that question. So that's off the cuff and off the fly. So
Well, that that
uh,
that's how it's supposed to be. So there's a reason I didn't ask you that in advance because you would have planned it out, and so I appreciate that because that's authentic the way you have it. And what resonates for me is this whole impetus of being able to turn things around, right?
mhm, mhm.
Your life exemplifies that. And as a Christian, you know there is no more redemptive symbol than Jesus Christ.
You're right.
Right. So I think that's
Right.
that's so powerful, and I really thank you for the time that you've given today to our listeners, for the work, for the people you've impacted, both the people you've impacted, and then the people who you don't even know you've impacted, right? Because I'd
Mhm.
imagine each of those people who has gone through your program, 90% of them are not ending up back in the criminal justice system. And that has a ripple effect in the world. Like that means functional, caring people back in communities doing good for other people, and that just is good for humanity. So thank you for your contribution to making this life better for people.
Man, that's well said. And that's something that I think about all the time too. Is like, I ain't gonna be too long winded, but I just can imagine like when it's all said and done for myself, like when you change, 300 plus people's lives, which we have put, that many people through our program since um, technically 2015, we've been working with people, but I can imagine what now the trajectory of their lives for their families and their generations, right, of their kids. And I can see, they have a piece of, you know, of the organization and the blood, sweat, and tears of their staff and all the people that put a lot of work into providing an opportunity and sharing the knowledge and love. And imagine, thousands and thousands of people, hopefully millions of people next 100 plus years, right? Or plus, 300, 400 years, that it helped build the trajectory of somebody, or their families, and what that can actually provide, now that, that family member, or, that son, a daughter, that husband, that wife, have given, help with this financial stability where they can go to college now, and, they could put them in a position where they can, live in a different neighborhood in a better living condition, right? And just think about that generational lane. And that's why I'm so happy, and I'm so blessed, and it ain't me, it's God to me. So everything I do is not even me; it's really God, and I give all the glory to Him. And but just, yeah, I see it, I'm just so humbled and grateful, and blessed. So.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Ramey. I really, really appreciate it and have enjoyed our conversation today. I learned so much, and I'm definitely going to go check out and donate as well to the organization and encourage others to do it as well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thanks for joining us on the Hangout Podcast. You can send us an email at podcastinfo@proton.me. Many thanks to my daughter Maya for editing this episode. I'd also like to underline that this podcast is entirely separate from my day job, and as such, all opinions expressed herein are mine and mine alone. Thanks for coming on in and hanging out.